What's up, everybody? It is Broken Havoc here, right here on the Broken Havoc podcast, here to review AEW Dynamite from August 18th, 2021, emanating to us from Houston, Texas. Overall thoughts on this show: I thought this was a really good show, especially the first hour. The first hour was extremely energetic, especially from that crowd in Houston. The crowd in Houston was the MVP of this entire show. We had Tony Schiavone doing hella interviews everywhere, and I mean like a boatload of interviews in the middle of the show. Of course, we had Sting wrestling on TNT for the first time since March 26th, 2001 on the Final Nitro against Ric Flair. That was awesome to see. Again, of course, he was partnering with Darby Allin going up against 2.0, aka Everrise, Matt Lee, and Jeff Parker. We had Shawn Spears going up against Sammy Guevara. We had Chris Jericho in the fifth labor of Jericho finally get his hands on MJF, in which we saw MJF get the W on Chris Jericho. But, of course, this show, I mean, as much as I love Dynamite, we all know we're excited for this Friday, tomorrow night, 10 o'clock on TNT, AEW Rampage, The First Dance. It is going to be that show's going to be freaking bonkers, regardless. I mean, they just released the card. The card is not that great, but we all know what the main attraction is. The main attraction is CM Punk, because we all know CM Punk is definitely going to be showing up at that show. And I guarantee you, bro, once CM Punk shows up, I'm going to go apeshit. Holy shit, bro. Ever since AEW was first like a thing, when it first opened up as a company, the first signing that everybody wanted was CM Punk, and we're finally getting it tomorrow night. History will be made tomorrow night, and we're going to be on the verge of a revolution, as they said, ever since AEW started. So it's going to be awesome. I'm definitely excited for tomorrow night. SmackDown, nobody's going to care about SmackDown. Let's be straight up. I think it's going to be an okay show, but let's be straight up. Nobody's going to care about SmackDown. Everybody is focused on that 1 hour after SmackDown. We got Rampage, CM Punk, the voice of the voiceless, the best in the world, coming to TNT, coming to AEW, and most likely having a face-off with Darby Allin, because Darby Allin did tease it a couple weeks ago at Fight for the Fallen. So, this is absolutely, I'm extremely hyped. 2021 has been wild for pro wrestling in general. I mean, we got John Cena versus Roman Reigns this Saturday at SummerSlam, which I'm excited for. We got Edge wrestling, Seth Rollins. We got SummerSlam, but let's be straight up, CM Punk is the biggest deal in wrestling right now, and he's definitely going to be making headlines once he makes that debut tomorrow night, most likely. I mean, the whole United Center sold out. The whole freaking United Center sold out. Based off of rumor. A lot of people are saying, some people are saying CM Punk's not going to show up. He will show up. AEW would be extremely foolish if they trolled us. But, I'm saying that, look, CM Punk is 100% showing up tomorrow night on Rampage. It's going to be freaking awesome. I'm excited. I know you, the viewer, is excited as well, because we are on the verge of a pro wrestling revolution in 2021. But before I get on with my Dynamite review, just a reminder, the Broken Havoc podcast is going live starting this Saturday on YouTube, immediately following the biggest party of the summer, SummerSlam. SummerSlam, I think, is going to be a pretty good show. I mean, the SmackDown side of the card, let's be straight up, is the much better portion of the card rather than Raw. Nobody cares about the matches on Raw. And let's be straight up, I feel like the hype of SummerSlam is kind of going to be dwindled a little bit because of what's going to happen the night before. I'm just going to be extremely honest. I'm still excited for SummerSlam, but let's be straight up. The whole party is going to happen on Friday night. We all know that's going to be the case. But this Saturday, the Broken Havoc podcast will be going live for the first time right here on YouTube, reviewing SummerSlam immediately following the pay-per-view. It's going to be awesome. I'm really excited to do this. I'm excited to bring this podcast to you live right here on YouTube. Let's see how it goes. And of course, we're going live right after All Out Sunday, September 5th as well. So be on the lookout for those live streams and subscribe to the channel for more content. So, back to my Dynamite review. Again, the crowd was on fire for this show. I was really excited to see what was going to happen on this show. I mean, all eyes are on Friday night at 10 o'clock. It's going to be crazy. The United Center, oh my God, they're going to go ballistic for what's going to happen. I mean, it's in Chicago. Chicago is a rough wrestling crowd, but an amazing wrestling crowd, because we have seen, we've seen on Raw for like 2 weeks ago. We've seen on Raw 2 weeks ago that, the fans were hijacking that show with CM Punk chants, and WWE tried desperately to edit out those chants, but enough of me talking about CM Punk, because I know that's like the main topic everybody wants to know. I'm extremely excited. CM Punk has been gone since 2014. There was hella rumors. A lot of people wanted to make headlines talking about how CM Punk wanted to return, but he never did. But, he's finally coming back to wrestling, and I feel like this is a scenario in which he is coming home because of the fact that, CM Punk made a name for himself, not in the WWE. Yes, he did blow up in the WWE, but let's be straight up, CM Punk made a name for himself in the independent scene. So, it's kind of a homecoming in a way, and with the inclusion of Bryan Danielson, I mean, this is going to be insane. AEW is definitely going to be the place to be, and AEW is definitely the hottest wrestling promotion currently right now. But starting off with Dynamite, started off with Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. So as soon as they were making their entrance, walking out to Wild Thing, what happens? 2.0, Matt Lee and Jeff Parker and Daniel Garcia attack Moxley and Kingston. Then, once they go to the ring, they immediately proceed to call out Darby Allin and Sting. So what can you do? We got the match. Sting is wrestling on the first match on Dynamite in Houston, so it's going to be really awesome. So we got Sting and Darby Allin versus 2.0 and Daniel Garcia in a Texas Tornado tag match. So this match is going to be going everywhere. I mean, throughout this whole match, especially in the beginning portions of the match, this whole match was literally just going all around the arena. Darby comes out of nowhere. He comes out from behind, actually, I might add. I was about to say the Stinger, bro. Sting's freaking awesome, okay? I be marking out for Sting all the time. Sting takes out 2.0. He hits a Stinger splash on both 2.0, both members of 2.0, of course, that being Matt Lee and Jeff Parker. Then a brawl breaks loose out of nowhere. Daniel Garcia and 2.0 go after Sting in the crowd. Again, Sting is absolutely over with the crowd, and this whole crowd in Houston, Texas, props to them. The crowd, AEW crowds in every city that they go to, they're always on fire, but I felt like this city in particular really they really knew what they were talking about. Literally, this whole crowd just was extremely on fire, and that's what I love so much about AEW is every time when they go to a city, and this is every freaking week, this is just not 1 week, because with WWE, when they go to a city, there's going to be like one or two cities that you're really going to be invested with the crowd, cities like Chicago, cities like Philadelphia, cities like New York or New Jersey, and yes, New Jersey is one of those crowds, because I've been there. We got Beach Ball Mania one time. I attended a Raw back in 2017. We had Beach Ball Mania, but when WWE goes to crowds, they go to many different cities, and some of the cities they go to, cities like Tacoma, Washington, those cities are really casual type cities, and nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, you don't really get a genuine crowd reaction from the crowd. But in every AEW show, because AEW is geared towards the more hardcore fan base, but at the same time, they try to cater to the casual audience as well to get more ratings, and rightfully so, of course. I feel like WWE should do that with both audiences. They just want to cater to the casual audience. I don't think they are trying to cater to the hardcore audience. You should cater to both, in my opinion. That's what NXT is for, but let's be straight up. Nobody really cares about NXT as much anymore. NXT is basically dead, especially after those cuts that they have done. But Houston in this show, AEW, the crowd in Houston, hats off to them. Sting was extremely over. Darby then walks on the rails of the stairs, and literally just drops on 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. He doesn't do a coffin drop. He did some sort of crossbody right there. Moxley and Kingston then enter the fray out of nowhere. Now, they're not officially part of the match, but they do enter the fray. Then what happens after that? Everyone gets back in the ring. Sting sets up a table, but what happens? He gets taken out by Jeff Parker. Then Darby gets thrown into the elevated ramp. Then 2.0 double suplexes Darby on the skateboard while on the elevated ramp, which looked nasty, by the way. I mean, Darby, I guarantee you, was in definite pain. Taking a suplex on top of a freaking skateboard, I mean, holy shit. The 2.0 then sets up the table. Sting fights back. Sting with repeated rights on the top, but then the other member, I think it was Matt Lee, correct me. I keep getting confused with these names, bro. Because, I mean, I've seen Everrise before. I mean, on NXT, not a lot, but, like, you know, I wasn't as much really familiar with them, considering the fact that I don't really watch a lot of NXT. But they looked like $1 million. I mean, Matt Lee and Jeff Parker looked really good. I don't recall. I think it was either Matt Lee or Jeff Parker that came in. But one of the members from Everrise came in, and then they both proceeded to powerbomb Sting through the table. But what happens? Sting no-sells it and goes crazy like Sting would, which was an amazing moment. I mean, I was watching one match of Sting. You know, I was watching one match. I was watching the match he had with Jeff Jarrett at Bound for Glory 2006 in Detroit. I rewatched that match a couple days ago, and that match was extremely slow. It was not the best match. Like, you know, it was not really Sting's best match, but I will say that spot where Sting just took that guitar shot from Jeff Jarrett and then just no-sold it like crazy. Like, the crowd went from 0 to 100. And I feel like in this case, you know, it was a homecoming in a way for Sting just no-selling a move or no-selling a powerbomb through a table and just getting back up and then just, you know, going crazy like Sting would. Amazing moment. I fucking enjoyed it. It was awesome to see. And I talk about the whole no-sell from Bound for Glory 2006 because I love that moment from that match. I mean, the match was not great, but, like, I mean, that no-selling from Sting in that match, one of Sting's best no-sells, because he always does that because that's the character of Sting. But after Sting no-sells, Darby comes in, and then Sting then hits a double Scorpion Death Drop. And then what happens? He applies the Scorpion Death Lock on both Matt Lee and Jeff Parker at the same frickin' time. So he applies the Scorpion Deathlock on both members of 2.0. Both tap out. Sting and Darby Allin win this match. Overall thoughts on this match? You know, I'm fucking happy, bro. I'm extremely happy because, like, yes, you know, wrestlers in their 60s, I'm kind of against. But when it comes to Sting, I mean, let's be straight up. AEW utilizes their legends completely different than the WWE. I mean, when it comes to the WWE, I mean, they don't really cater a lot to their current roster. They focus a lot more on the nostalgia. And, you know, it's okay to focus on the nostalgia. There's nothing wrong with that, but you got to build your future. They only have, like, 1 or 2 stars that really they care about. I mean, like, their big star right now is Roman Reigns. Who else is to dethrone him? You know, they got Goldberg facing Bobby Lashley because they don't have anybody else. Which, you know, the guy to take the belt off of Lashley is freaking Big E. I definitely think he will be drafted to Raw and take the belt off of Big E. But, I mean, let's be straight up. Does WWE, like, really make a lot of stars? Instead, what they do is they bring back legends, and then they put them in matches to take spots away from the younger talent that are striving for a spot on the card. And, you know, they either win the match or they either just get buried. You know, case in point, Goldberg with The Fiend. With AEW, they align legends to elevate young talent. And I feel like with Darby Allin, they have been doing just that. And Darby has been doing well for himself ever since he's been aligned with Sting, in my opinion. And Darby Allin, to the point, it's been so good to the point where Darby's matches were the highest rated segments of the show. And I do believe that is the case because he is with Sting, but at the same time, it elevated Darby. I mean, guys like Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, MJF, and Sammy Guevara, those four guys are definitely going to be elevating AEW to the near future. Those are going to be your 4 big stars for the next 10 to 15 years in that company. And I have that wholehearted belief that is going to be the case because Jungle Boy, I believe, is a star. Sammy Guevara is definitely a star. MJF, like this guy, a lot of people say he's the next Ric Flair, and I can't disagree. You know, MJF is definitely the next Ric Flair. I know that's kind of far-fetched, but that's what a lot of people say. But I definitely do believe, you know, MJF is getting to that superstardom because he is the full package. You know, it's just really good. And Darby Allin is no different. You know, Darby Allin aligning himself with Sting, amazing. I've always supported that. And, you know, having Sting and Darby work together in this match, you know, I mean, they looked extremely good at Double or Nothing, and they looked even better in this show. So Great seeing Sting wrestling on TNT again. Great seeing Darby Allin. They won the match against Everrise, aka 2.0. I gotta stop calling them Everrise because that's what they were. That's what their name was in NXT. So there was a video package of what happened before the show went on the air. I believe they were taping either Dark or Dark Elevation, but Sammy Guevara officially proposed. So congratulations to Sammy Guevara. It's awesome to see. You know, he's gonna be a husband. Awesome to see Sammy Guevara finally proposes. So congratulations to the Spanish God Sammy Guevara. Then we get Shawn Spears and Tully Blanchard from the Pinnacle in a backstage segment. Says one night only, Sammy Guevara will be a member of the Pinnacle because when you're in the Pinnacle, you're always on top. Then he says for one night only, you let him be on top, and then the crowd just goes, "Oh shit." So we got our next match of the evening. I was about to say matchup, like, you know, WWE says that all the time. Or this matchup instead of just saying match. We got Sammy Guevara versus Shawn Spears, which this match was really good. Both absolutely killed it. I mean, it was not as good as the match that would happen after, of course, the tag team title match, but this match was really good to see. You know, Sammy Guevara looked great. Shawn Spears looked like $1,000,000. I mean, the spots that they were doing in this match, just balls to the wall. I really enjoyed it. So Spears tries to go after Sammy Guevara before the match even starts, by the way. So before the match even starts, they just start brawling. Guevara and Spears brawl on the ramp. Spears gets taken out. Then Sammy hits a somersault off of the top of the elevated ramp onto Shawn Spears. Sammy hits a couple of chops on Spears. Then he sends Spears to the guardrail. Guevara gets sent to the steel steps after that. Then Spears hits a pile driver with the help of Tully Blanchard after that. Then the match proceeds to begin. What happens? Spears tries to pile drive him on the outside, but then Tully gets sent out by Aubrey Edwards, the referee. Tully Blanchard gets kicked out. He was about to threaten Aubrey Edwards in this case. You know, Aubrey Edwards, I mean, yes, I know a lot of people are like, you know, a referee as a character, but like, you know, Aubrey Edwards is extremely over, and Aubrey Edwards is really good. I really enjoy seeing Aubrey Edwards in AEW a lot. She's really good. She's a really good referee. Not only that, I feel like the crowd is enjoying Aubrey Edwards' work as the referee, so it's good to see that. But both get back in the ring. Then Spears tries to knee. She gets the knee down. He gets the knee pad down and hits repeated knees on Sammy in the corner without the knee pad, so that's crazy. Then Sammy hits a step-up enziguri from the apron on Shawn Spears. Then Sammy hits a springboard cutter from the top, which looked really beautiful, by the way. Then proceeds to roll up Spears. We get a near fall. Spears tries to go for the powerbomb, but Sammy escapes. Then Spears is working on Sammy during the commercial break. Once we're back from the commercial break, a guardrail is set up in between the ring and the other guardrail that is right where the crowd is, of course. So the guardrail is set in between those two things. And then both Spears and Guevara are brawling on the top rope. Then both springboard up the top rope. Then Spears faces Guevara, flips him off after that. Then Guevara hits an amazing cutter from the top. Again, another cutter by the Spanish God, Sammy Guevara. That was an amazing spot. Then Spears is on the top. You know, Guevara tries to go on Spears. Then Spears picks up Guevara. Guevara hits a Death Valley driver from the top on Spears. Spears picks up Guevara on the apron. Guevara escapes. Then we get a kick by Sammy on Shawn Spears. Sammy then picks up Spears and then drops him onto the guardrail. So not looking good for Shawn Spears getting dropped on the frickin' guardrail. That must hurt like hell. Then he hits a frickin' 630 off of the top rope on Shawn Spears. We get a cover and a frickin' close ass near fall. Then after that, Guevara hits a couple of knees on Spears. My apologies. Then Guevara hits the GTH. We get a cover and Sammy Guevara wins this one-on-one match with Shawn Spears of the Pinnacle. Overall thoughts on this match. I thought this was a really, really good match. Not that long of a match, but both men took it to the limits. You know, I think a lot of people were saying that these two, you know, don't like each other in real life. But I feel like, you know, if that is the case, if you don't like somebody in the locker room, now, I don't know from experience. I do not know. I don't have any experience in the wrestling locker room, so don't at me at this. But, you know, I hear a lot of wrestlers say, you know, if you're working with somebody that you don't like and you just let your egos aside and then, just work together, it blends well, and it kind of blends well, like really good. And I feel like in this case, I mean, if that is actually the case, if Sammy and Spears do not really like each other, I mean, they really put balls to the wall in this match. This match was really good. The spots that they were doing, that freaking springboard cutter off the top by Sammy, holy shit. Sammy is one of the guys that is going to carry AEW. I mean, Sammy Guevara is the future of this freaking company. I guarantee you that. But we got a lot of freaking Tony Schiavone interviews after that. So, literally the first hour was, again, as Mike Tenay would say, a 60-minute adrenaline rush, and that's what it was. I mean, this whole first hour, with those first 3 matches, I mean, the crowd was just amazing and just absolutely went crazy. Well, actually, no, the first 3 matches, I mean, the first 2 matches, I might add. My apologies. I'm just so excited. My bad, man. But Tony Schiavone backstage interviewing Christian Cage, of course, the new Impact World Champion. Don Callis comes in, and of course, he talks about, how he basically pushed Christian's career and all that stuff. Then Cage says that he was going to take this. He says that he was going to take this Impact title from Kenny Omega, and he did. And says that he's going to take his AEW title September 5th at All Out. Says that things never change, and says that, yes, you may be right, you are. He's basically talking to Don Callis, saying that you are the smartest man in the room, but you are a carny piece of shit. That is what Christian Cage says. Holy damn, that was awesome. Christian Cage is really good. I've always been a fan of Christian Cage, and I'm definitely going to be watching Impact Wrestling tonight. I'm going to see what happens. Apparently, I read a little bit of a spoiler that, he's going to be retiring the TNA title, which, that belt should have been retired like a long time ago. I mean, I know Moose brought it back. Just, he wants to proclaim himself as the real world champion, but I feel like the TNA title really has no business being on Impact or AEW television because of the fact that TNA title, yes, it was the former name of Impact Wrestling, but just retire that title, just have Christian hold on to the Impact title. But, I'm really excited to see what goes down. I'm really excited to see Christian returning to the Impact Zone. Now, it's not the same Impact Zone in Universal Studios, but it's the Impact Zone. So we got a video package of Dante Martin talking about, his match, of course, last week in that opening 6-man tag on Dynamite, which he was the MVP of, as I stated last week on my Dynamite review. Tony Schiavone, after that, is interviewing Dan Lambert. So as you guys know, Dan Lambert did a whole freaking rant at the first Dynamite back with the crowd in Miami at Road Rager. Was just ranting. And this segment was no different, of course. Back at Road Rager, I mean, of course, you had Lance Archer come in and just hit the blackout on freaking Dan Lambert. But in this case, what happens is that Dan Lambert is just going on a tirade. He's saying that AEW has jumped the cancel culture train. He rants on Lance Archer, says that he is standing by 2 former UFC champions. Then he says that AEW is not the answer for your wrestling prayers. And then we get a lot of AEW chants by the crowd. Then he continues to rant. What happens? Lance Archer comes out once again, but then from behind, Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page go for the attack and take out Lance Archer, and the segment ends. Where do I think this whole thing with Dan Lambert is going? Again, I don't watch MMA, but I don't even know where the hell this thing is going. Why is he on television? I don't know why. I know that Impact did something like this with Dan Lambert, but I mean, I don't know. I didn't really watch Impact during that period of time because, quite frankly, this is before AEW. I was just watching main roster WWE. I wasn't even watching NXT, to be honest. But with this whole thing with Dan Lambert, I don't know what's the point with it. But, let's see where it goes. I honestly do not know where this whole thing is going to go, to be honest. But, it was great to see Dan Lambert, ranting about AEW and all that stuff. A lot of the things he said, I mean, he's not lying. I mean, of course he's trying to get that heel heat. If you're legitimately mad that he's there, I mean, I don't know what's wrong with you. I mean, he's trying to get that heel heat from the crowd. So that is great to see. I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Lambert just showed up next week on Dynamite as well. We get a promo by Chris Jericho. He talks about how he endured the 4 previous labors of Jericho. He says that he took 14 power bombs, but he survived and won. says he gets the ultimate prize and says that he goes one-on-one with MJF in Houston, Texas. Says he may not go out to Judas or hit the Judas effect, but he says that he has the momentum, and he has 5,000 fans that are going to walk him to the ring singing Judas. And tonight, he's going to be getting his revenge, and he will beat him tonight, and Jericho is up, and his jerk-off best friend is down. So, great promo by Jericho. Again, Jericho is an amazing promo. He knows what to do. He knows how to get people over. And in this match he had with MJF, it's no different. I mean, MJF is definitely, they made the right call by having MJF winning the match and him going over. This just elevates MJF, but I'll talk about that later on in this review. All right, we got Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus going up against Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. What are my thoughts on this match? This match was the show stealer, in my opinion. Throughout near like the middle, near the end, from the middle to the end of the match, there were times where I legitimately thought that Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus were actually going to walk out of Houston with the tag titles. But sadly, I was wrong. I was literally gunning for the Jurassic Express to win the tag titles, but apparently that's not going to be the case. The Young Bucks are going to be holding on for those titles for a longer period of time, maybe for the next few months. They could either drop it at All Out for whoever they're going to be facing, because they're going to be wrestling in a steel cage match that was announced later on in the show at All Out, which is awesome. I'm glad that we got a steel cage match on pay-per-view. Awesome to see. First time the AEW steel cage match is going to be on pay-per-view. So, because the previous times we had cage matches, it was on television. Of course, we had the first match with Cody and Wardlow last year in a steel cage match, and then we had the Blood and Guts match, which emanated from television. But first time steel cage match is going to be on AEW, so I'm excited to see that. But this whole match was, amazing. Matt and Nick Jackson, of course, amazing talent. They are the best, and I mean this wholeheartedly. They are the best tag team in the world right now. The ultimate dream match that we would all love to see, the Young Bucks versus the Usos. It's a no-brainer. Like, I would one day want to see that match, because the Usos is another one of the best. Look, I would put the Usos and the Young Bucks in the same level as I do Kenny Omega and Roman Reigns. Those two tag teams are in the same level, and they are the two best tag teams in the world, period. That's just my opinion. But this whole match with the Jurassic Express and the Young Bucks, amazing freaking match. I mean, enough of me talking about how good this match was. Let's talk about what happened in the match. So Jungle Boy and Nick Jackson start. We get a kick by Nick Jackson. Nick Jackson goes for a shoulder tackle, then hits a big boot. Nick with a backflip off the apron to escape Jungle Boy after that. Then we get a dive and crossbody on Nick Jackson by Jungle Boy. We get a drop kick by Jungle Boy after that. Then Luchasaurus hits a right hand. Luchasaurus tags in, works on Nick Jackson into the corner. We get a chop by Luchasaurus on both Matt and Nick. Then, by this point, Matt Jackson is the legal man in the match. We get a slam by Luchasaurus on Matt Jackson. We get a cover and a near fall. Jungle Boy tags in, then hits a senton on Matt Jackson after that. We get a cover and a near fall. The Bucks try to go for the Meltzer driver, but Jungle Boy escapes. Then Jungle Boy hits a Hurricane Rana on Nick. By this point, I was like, oh my god, I'm trying to take my notes, and there's so much spots going on. It's a whole spot fest going on right here. Matt then hits a diving crossbody on Luchasaurus. Then the Bucks are working on Jungle Boy during the commercial break. Once we're back from commercial break, both Matt and Nick Jackson work on Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy hits a clothesline on Nick Jackson. Then Jungle Boy rolls through and tags Luchasaurus. Works on both Bucks. Then we get a rising knee strike in the corner by Nick Jackson. Then Luchasaurus hits a double clothesline. Then chokes Nick Jackson, but Nick escapes. Then we get an enziguri by Nick Jackson after that. Jungle Boy goes up, stands on Luchasaurus, and hits a brain buster. Yes, a brain buster from the top, which looked insane. That was an amazing freaking spot that Jungle Boy hit. The fact that he stood on top of Luchasaurus and just hit that brain buster from the top. Holy shit, again, Jungle Boy is definitely going to be a main eventer in the next few years. So after that, we get a cover and a near fall. Luchasaurus tags in, then chokes Nick Jackson. Then Brandon Cutler, of all people, come in to try to make the distraction. Then pushes Nick on Brandon Cutler. chokes both of the Young Bucks, but the Bucks escape. Then they try to hit the super kick, but Luchasaurus succeeds and hits the double choke slam on the Young Bucks. Then Jungle Boy hits the Tumpe Suicida, aka the Suicide Dive. Then we get a cover up by Luchasaurus, and then we get a near fall. Then we get a double super kick by both Bucks on Luchasaurus, and then hits the same move on Jungle Boy after that. Then Matt Jackson hits a pile driver with the help of Nick Jackson. Then we get a cover and a really close near fall. Then Marco Stunt tries to come in, but Kenny Omega, of all people, come in, hits Marco Stunt with the chair. Then Christian Cage comes in and then attacks Omega. The Good Brothers then try to make the interference after that. Jungle Boy plants Nick to the mat. We get a cover and a near fall. Then hits the Jurassic Express. We get a near fall. The Jurassic Express goes after everyone at this time. Then we get a backslide by Nick Jackson. Then they hit the BTE trigger on Jungle Boy, and the Young Bucks retain the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Overall thoughts on this match. This was a show stealer. I really enjoyed this match. This match was really good to see. Both absolutely killed it in this match. I feel like they are really good at what they do. Not only that, the Young Bucks, best tag team in the world, Jurassic Express. Jungle Boy looked extremely good in this match. He always does. I mean, his match with Kenny Omega was a classic in my opinion. I really loved the match that he had with Kenny Omega. The tag teams that AEW has, I mean, they made that promise that they will focus a lot on tag team wrestling, and this is a no-brainer. I mean, this match was balls to the wall, amazing match. And the Young Bucks retain the AEW World Tag Team Championships. But after the match, what happens? After that, Gallows picks up Christian Cage. The Good Brothers then attack the Jurassic Express. Then what happens after that? Omega with repeated right hands on the Impact World Champion Christian Cage. Then Callis proceeds to enter the fray, and the Weasel, as Tony Schiavone would say, Don Callis just goes for repeated stomps on Christian Cage. Omega then hits the one-winged angel on Christian Cage, does a fake 3 count to make it believe that, Omega pinned Christian Cage 1, 2, 3. The Elite stands tall with all their titles at hand, and the segment ends. What are my thoughts on this? Great. I mean, the Elite is a powerful faction, all that stuff. Great to see that. But Tony Schiavone, again, there's a lot of Tony Schiavone interviews in this freaking show. Like around the middle of the show, bro, there was just straight up just back-to-back segments, backstage segments constantly. But Tony Schiavone interviews both Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Jamie Hayter. Of course, Jamie Hayter came to the aid of Britt Baker last Friday on Rampage. Britt Baker says that she is the world champion, and she brought in the problem solver, Jamie Hayter. She said that she knows how to bring backup, and Jamie says they go way back. Her and Britt Baker go way back. Then she talks about attacking Chris Statlander and says red is not her color, that being Britt Baker, but gold is definitely not Statlander's color. And then we get a video package of Matt Hardy after that and Orange Cassidy. Again, a lot of backstage interviews at this point. Then we got one segment. We got Tony Schiavone interviewing Paul White. Well, where is the big show? Paul White. Tony thanks Paul for saving his son last week. Of course, Tony Schiavone's son got attacked last week from QT Marshall, who is the equivalent of T-Bar and Mace. Actually, no, I'm kind of being a little bit cruel because T-Bar and Mace are the overscripted jobber squashers. QT Marshall ain't no, he's no overscripted jobber squasher, but he is a jobber. Let's be straight up. I am not a fan of the Factory. I don't see the hype with the Factory. I don't think anybody sees the hype with the Factory. I am not a big fan of the Factory. That's just my opinion. But Paul says that it was amazing to be back in the ring and says it felt so good to stare QT Marshall right in the face. He says that he is excited and he has an announcement. Then QT Marshall, the jobber, comes out, then says that he does not know that it has been 4 decades, and says here in AEW, they don't let the fans down, and says that there's a reason why Tony Khan hires him as an announcer rather than a wrestler chasing titles. Then Paul White says that he's actually getting upset and says that he's privileged to know a lot of it. QT Marshall then says that he's privileged to know a lot of information, then shows a photo on the screen of course, Paul White's surgeries. And then, Paul asks QT if he is supposed to be embarrassed, says that he has an announcement for All Out, and it's going to be Paul White returning to the ring, going one-on-one against QT Marshall September 5th. What are my thoughts on this match? What are my thoughts on this match? I mean, we all know Paul White is going to bury the hell out of QT Marshall. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I mean, am I a fan of Paul White getting back in the ring? I mean, that's what everybody has been saying, ever since he signed. We all know he was going to get back in the ring in some way, shape, or form. Am I really excited about it? Not really. I mean, we all know the outcome. Honestly, I just do not care. But, hey, it is what it is. Paul White is going to be wrestling QT Marshall at All Out September 5th. We get a video package of that bitch, Jade Cargill, as she would love to say. She challenges Kiera Hogan for a match Friday on Rampage, which, Kiera Hogan, of course, I believe she has been wrestling on Dark or Dark Elevation. Of course, she was one half of Fire and Flava in Impact Wrestling with Tasha Steelz, so that's no longer a tag. They're no longer a tag team, as from what I know, because Kiera Hogan is no longer in Impact Wrestling. But Kiera Hogan is great. She's not a bad wrestler. She's really good, and I feel like she's going to be a really good asset for AEW, in my opinion. But Jade Cargill challenges Kiera Hogan this Friday on Rampage. So that's going to be one of the matches announced. That's going to be one of the matches that's going to be happening at the Last Dance at the United Center this Friday on Rampage. So, am I excited for it? Not really. I mean, Jade Cargill is still pretty green in the ring, but Kiera Hogan is really good in the ring. So I feel like she'll really take Jade Cargill to quote unquote her limits. Let's see how that goes. Then Tony Schiavone backstage. Again, a lot of freaking Tony Schiavone backstage interviews or in-ring interviews. It's crazy. By this point, there was not a lot of wrestling matches because, we already had 3 freaking wrestling matches going on. And we had, back-to-back interviews with Tony Schiavone. It was crazy. I mean, I thought Alex Marvez be teleporting everywhere. Nah, man. Tony Schiavone be teleporting everywhere. But Tony Schiavone interviews The Elite. Tony says that Tony Khan has had enough and says that he booked an eliminator tournament to face the Young Bucks in a steel cage match at All Out. Now, the wrestlers that are going to be consisting in this tag team eliminator tournament is going to be Private Party, the Varsity Blondes, the Lucha Bros, and Jurassic Express. So that is a pretty good mini tournament. It's going to be really good to see this tournament. I mean, the first matchup that we're going to be getting in this eliminator tournament is going to be this Friday at Rampage. It's going to be Jurassic Express going up against Private Party. Who do I think is going to be winning that portion of the tournament? It's definitely going to be Jurassic Express. I mean, I feel like in a way they kind of got the Young Bucks' number because they really showed their strengths in the match, and the match was just really well executed. But, what are my thoughts on the whole eliminator tournament? It's a great idea. Who do I think is going to be winning this eliminated tournament? I mean, it's either probably the Jurassic Express or probably the Lucha Bros because, the Lucha Bros are currently in this storyline with Andrade El Idolo, in which Pac and Andrade are going to be having their match September 5th at All Out. And I definitely made the speculation that the Lucha Bros, both Penta and Phoenix, are most likely going to turn on Pac on that pay-per-view, and then on the same night, maybe. Now, this is my new assumption that they're definitely going to be beating the Young Bucks for the tag team titles, but at the same time, I feel like in a way, if they turned heel and, faced off against a heel tag team, it kind of wouldn't make any sense, but that is just my assumption. My pick on winning this tournament, I feel like it's going to be Jurassic Express, although I would love to see the Lucha Bros go up against the Young Bucks again at All Out. Of course, they had that ladder match 2 years ago at All Out, which was an amazing freaking ladder match. They both absolutely killed it. Of course, that match was for the AAA tag team titles, but I do believe that Jurassic Express is definitely going to be winning this tournament, and the fact that we're going to be getting a cage match at All Out is just really good to see. All right, after that, we got Taz and his son Hook in the ring. Brings in the FTW champion Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks then comes out and talks about Brian Cage. Then he calls out Brian Cage, but what happens? Cage and Hook are brawling, and then what happens? Taz, Hook, and Ricky Starks are just going backstage, and the segment ends. What was the point of this segment? I really have no idea at all. There was absolutely no point in this segment whatsoever. Then Tony Schiavone again does another backstage interview with Death Triangle. Pac says Andrade says anywhere, anytime, and says in Chicago, and then Pac says perfecto. Then he says, what chance does he have against a bastard like him, that being Pac? Andrade comes in out of nowhere and says that if he wants his match, he needs to agree with this condition, and then Chavo after that says, good luck to the Lucha Bros because they will never be champions. Again, they're still going after the Lucha Bros. Again, I still have that belief that the Lucha Bros will eventually turn on Pac at All Out. I feel like it's coming because of the fact that, teases are kind of there in a way because of the fact that, we have Andrade and Chavo just wanting to encourage the Lucha Bros to align themselves with Andrade, and I think the new faction with Andrade and the Lucha Bros, I think that would be an amazing faction, with the inclusion of Chavo Guerrero as well. Of course, he was in a tag team with Eddie Guerrero, Los Guerreros, back in the days of the SmackDown 6. They were a really awesome tag team, and, we got that dynasty going on. It would have been much better if we included Thea Trinidad, but she did re-sign with the WWE, so that's not going to happen. I think it would have been much better for that to happen, but that is not going to be the case. But I do believe that the Lucha Bros will eventually turn on Pac. All right, we got our next matchup. Finally, we got another match because we had a lot of freaking backstage interviews during this portion of the show. Thunder Rosa, she's ranked number 2 in the AEW rankings, versus Superbad Penelope Ford. I thought this was a pretty good match. It was not the best match in the world. Thunder Rosa looked great, of course. But the match starts. Both face off. Ford shoves Rosa, and then after that, we get a drop kick by Rosa. Then we get a couple kicks in the corner by Thunder Rosa. We get a back elbow by Rosa on Ford into the corner. Ford gets sent to the other corner of the ring. We get a couple kicks by Thunder Rosa. We get Ford being on the apron. We get a right hand by Rosa, and then she proceeds to hit a drop kick. Rosa then with a series of chops on the outside. Ford then drives Rosa to the post. Then Ford hits a cutter on Rosa on the outside. Ford works on Rosa during the commercial break after that. Then we get a running boot by Ford into the corner back from commercial break. Then Ford misses a kick when Rosa ducked. I wrote roster. I don't know why. I was literally I take notes extremely fast. Rosa then hits a clothesline in the corner. Then we get double knees in the corner by Rosa. Then she hits a drop kick on Penelope Ford. Then Penelope Ford proceeds to hit a butterfly suplex after that. We get a cover by Penelope Ford, and we get a near fall. Then Rosa tries to go for the Fire Thunder Driver, but Ford rolls her up, but we get a near fall. Then Ford applies the Moodle Lock, as Excalibur said on commentary, but it was the Indian Deathlock as it's called. We got a roll-up and a near fall. Rosa applies the single leg Boston Crab. Rosa picks up Ford. Then Thunder Rosa proceeds to hit the Death Valley Driver. We get a cover, and then we get another freaking near fall. Ford picks up Rosa, proceeds to hit a backbreaker, and then applies the Indian Deathlock after that. Rosa counters into the choke, and Ford taps out. Thunder Rosa wins this match. What are my thoughts on this match? I think this was a great match. I mean, it was not the best match, but Thunder Rosa looked great. For All Out, it's most likely going to be Britt Baker versus Chris Statlander, which I'm not really excited for because we all know Britt Baker is definitely retaining the title. She's holding on to that title for the next few months. She is not letting go of that title. I don't see AEW having Britt Baker to drop that title because she is the best women's wrestler on that roster right now, on that division right now. With Thunder Rosa, I mean, they absolutely killed it at the St. Patrick's Day Dynamite, with that lights out match. If anything, they would put on a match of the year caliber match. And I feel like, what they should have done was they should have booked a match with Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker at All Out, because All Out is setting to be their biggest pay-per-view so far. And I feel like if you want to really elevate that card, I feel like you would have put Thunder Rosa going up against Britt Baker. Now, my assumption a couple weeks ago was like, we should get Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker inside of a steel cage. But that's not going to happen. But they would absolutely kill it if they were inside a steel cage. It would have been extremely awesome. But Thunder Rosa wins this match. Great to see. We got Tony Schiavone interviewing Brock, of course, the son of Arn Anderson, and Arn Anderson backstage. Talks about Malachi Black attacking Arn and then Cody, and then annihilating Cody in that match a couple weeks ago at Daly's Place in Jacksonville. Says that Brock will face Malachi Black next week on Dynamite. Arn, of course, the father that he is worried. But then Brock says he is not asking, he is telling him. So Brock Anderson will face Malachi Black. Guaranteed you that this match will not go longer than a minute. This match, you're going to have, I love what they're doing with Brock Anderson, trying to like make him be tough and all that stuff. And that's great, great booking for Brock Anderson. But let's be straight up. Malachi Black is going to annihilate this dude next week. Malachi Black ain't losing. No chance in hell. No pun intended. No chance in hell. But yeah. We get a little bit of a video package hyping up basically tomorrow night's Rampage, of course, the first dance, and we got a lot of CM Punk chants. We got a video package of Miro, great. He basically calls out Eddie Kingston, which I would love to see a match with Miro and Eddie Kingston. A match with Miro and Eddie Kingston would be an extremely really cool match to see. But after that, we got Jon Moxley in a backstage segment. He says that AEW is the hottest promotion, talks about the Elite, and then talks about Christian. Says that he is the guy that carried this company through the darkest days during the pandemic, which rightfully so. Then talks about Daniel Garcia because he's going to be facing Daniel Garcia tomorrow night on Rampage. He asks if he wants a taste in the main event. This Friday on Rampage, you're going to get that taste in the main event. Then he asks himself, if this is where you really want to be, and says this ain't no joke, and then the promo ends. That was a really good promo by Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley always cuts really good promos because you believe what he's saying, and again, the key to a really good promo is you believing in what the wrestler is saying, and I feel like Jon Moxley absolutely nailed it 1,000%. So we got the fifth labor of Jericho. We got MJF versus Chris Jericho. Of course, MJF comes out with his music, but Jericho does not. And once Jericho came out to his music, holy shit. Jericho did not come out to Judas, but he came out with the whole crowd singing his theme song, of course. It's a common thing with Jericho now. I mean, I would love to go. I'm going to the Prudential Center show. I am definitely singing Judas. Like legit extremely loud, because the crowd in Houston on this show absolutely nailed it. And every week the crowd on Dynamite nails it. I know I've spoken this earlier on in this review, but the crowd singing Judas, like when Jericho was walking towards the ring, when Jericho had no music, holy shit, man. Like that was an amazing moment. Amazing moment to remember, and just amazing. So at this point, MJF is pissed off because he is the heel, of course. He's supposed to be pissed off. But the match starts. We get a takedown by Jericho. He tries to go for the Lion Tamer, a.k.a. the Walls, but does not. Jericho then hits a springboard dropkick on MJF. He takes out MJF from the top. Jericho then hits a couple of chops on the outside. MJF then fights back. Jericho fights back as well. Jericho gets taken to the guardrail. MJF grabs the camera, and what happens? Once he's holding that camera, he flips off the entire crowd. And then once he is flipping off the crowd, he turns the camera the other way. It's Jericho, and then he comes in out of nowhere and hits a right hand, and then flips off after that MJF, which was hilarious. I loved that spot. You have to have fun in wrestling, and that's what I really enjoy about AEW. They have fun with the stuff that they're doing. Also, at the same time, you're supposed to work the match and you're supposed to make the match interesting, but at the same time, they're having fun with it. And I feel like this was the case of MJF, of course, flipping off the crowd because he is a freaking heel and that's his character. And then the fact that MJF just, gets, a right hand by Jericho, and then Jericho picks up the camera and just flips off MJF was the funniest shit ever. So then after that, we get a couple of chops by Jericho. Jericho with a couple of forearms in the corner. MJF then fights back. Jericho gets sent into the corner post after that. MJF kicks with kicks on the arm of Jericho. Of course, he's targeting the bad arm of Chris Jericho. Then during the break, MJF is taking the advantage. Once we're back from commercial break, we get a double clothesline on both MJF and Chris Jericho. Jericho with a couple of right hands. Then he hits a couple of chops. Then Jericho hits a shoulder tackle. Jericho's on the apron. He goes to the top, then hits a double sledge on MJF. MJF then hits a kick, then takes Jericho into the corner. Jericho lands on the bad arm after that. Then MJF with the double stomp on Jericho's bad arm. So again, he's targeting that bad arm of Jericho. Jericho with the right hand. Then Jericho hits a beautiful lion salt. Then we get a cover and a near fall. By this point, the crowd is just amped up. They're freaking amazing. It's a freaking amazing crowd. We get repeated stomps on MJF. We get a couple chops by Jericho into the corner. Then we get a clothesline by Jericho. Jericho then hits 10 mini clotheslines into the corner. Then takes MJF to the top. Jericho hits a chop. Then he also goes to the top. Then we get 10 right hands by Jericho. MJF picks him up, but Jericho counters into a Hurricane Rana, which looked awesome. Then we get a cover and a near fall. MJF counters into the armbar after that. Jericho counters and then tries to apply the Lion Tamer. Then MJF escapes with the kick. Jericho gets back up. Both exchange right hand shots. Then Jericho lands on the ramp. Then Jericho gets hit with the pendulum pile driver in the ring when Jericho lands on the ramp. Then Jericho applies the sleeper hold after that. MJF hits a low blow without the referee seeing it. Then MJF, in typical MJF fashion, applies the Lion Tamer, but then Jericho gets his hand on the bottom rope, so it would have been embarrassing if Jericho literally tapped out to his own submission. Then MJF, after that, hits a low blow again without the referee seeing it, of course, because he is a heel. He does that. Jericho, by this point, applies the Lion Tamer again. No, my bad. No, he doesn't apply the Lion Tamer again. My notes were kind of messed up, but Jericho grabs Floyd, which is his baseball bat, and then MJF grabs the ring, but then the referee sees it, and then it gets taken away. But then Jericho hits MJF with the baseball bat without the referee seeing it, but then tries to go for the Judas effect, but cannot, of course, because the stipulation says that Jericho cannot use the Judas effect. So what happens? MJF sees that, but then MJF hits the freaking Judas effect, applies the armbar. We get a roll-up by Jericho for Jericho to escape, but then MJF rolls back and then applies the armbar once again. Jericho taps out, and MJF wins the match. MJF beats Chris Jericho after Chris Jericho endured 4 weeks of hell on Dynamite. What are my thoughts on this match? Of course, a little side note. Of course, MJF in typical MJF fashion just flips off Jericho and flips off the crowd as soon as he leaves the ring. But what are my thoughts on this match? I thought this match was really good. I feel like this was the right outcome because of the fact that, you're telling the story that MJF has Jericho's number, and, MJF being the heel that he is, and if you want to elevate MJF, it makes the perfect sense for MJF to beat Jericho, because this doesn't demote him. This absolutely elevates MJF, and who knows what is going to happen, because we all know Hangman Page is the guy to beat Kenny Omega beat Kenny Omega for the AEW title, where a lot of people are assuming the Arthur Ashe Stadium Dynamite Grand Slam show, which I wouldn't mind. I would definitely book that, and I do believe that Hangman Page, regardless, is the one to take the belt off of Omega. But who is the guy to take the belt off of Hangman? It's MJF. MJF is going to be your Ric Flair, and your Hangman's going to be your Magnum TA. That is exactly what is going to happen. MJF is going to be a future world champion by next year. I guarantee you that. Not only that, you're going to have the whole Pinnacle stand tall with all the titles. You're going to have Wardlow stand tall with the FTW title, FTR with the tag titles, and Shawn Spears with the TNT championship. So, there's a lot of plans going in motion when it comes to MJF and the Pinnacle, and I feel like this is the only start, and we're going to be seeing a lot of MJF, especially now. So, overall thoughts on this match, really good match, and the right outcome. But overall thoughts on Dynamite, I thought this was a really good show. Definitely, it sets the tone for tomorrow night's Rampage show, because let's be straight up, nobody is going to care about SmackDown tomorrow night. SmackDown is going to be an okay show, but let's be straight up. Even the people that are attending SmackDown are going to be excited for what's going to happen right after SmackDown, of course. That 1-hour wrestling show on TNT at 10 o'clock. You're going to get CM Punk coming in, and it's going to be a game changer, and the wrestling business is going to change as we know it. I'm extremely excited to see what happens tomorrow night. I am immediately going to film my review for Rampage and immediately upload it as soon as Rampage goes off the air. I guarantee you that, because it's going to be history in the frickin' making. But that was my Dynamite review from August 18th, 2021, emanating from Houston, Texas. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Push that bell for notifications. Follow me on both social media, on both Instagram and Twitter. Not only that, be on the lookout for my first live stream immediately following the SummerSlam pay-per-view this Saturday. It's going to be awesome. The first time the Broken Havoc podcast is going to be live on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel for more content. And this is Broken Havoc from the Broken Havoc podcast. Signing out.